everybody. Welcome back to another Zoom edition of the 108 Bodhisattva Challenge. Glad to see you, Luis, also joining us. This week, our topic was compassion for all beings, and Dr. Nora did just such a lovely job with a lovely talk with her Dharma talk this week. If anyone missed it, please go back and do yourself a favor and listen to it again. I pulled some quotes and some comments from that Dharma talk to kind of guide our Wednesday class, and put a couple ideas at the end from a few other sources to kind of add to. Obviously we don't really do a breakout group so much with these Zoom sessions, but please, if you want to kind of jump in and comment, you're definitely welcome to, or you can just put something in the chat and we can make sure we take a moment to hear from everybody. If you have kind of something to say, something inspired by the talk, the quotes, the reading, anything, you know, those are always welcome. So yeah, I found this really cute picture with the kitty cat right there, and I know Lama Matt's crazy about cats, so thought I'd put that on there. It seemed appropriate with the topic. But anyway, so let's see. Oops. How do I go backwards? There we go. I just need to, okay. Trying to collapse. There we go. Okay. So, sorry, I'm playing around because the video kind of hides the words that I'm looking at. So people's faces are kind of in front of that. I'm trying to minimize it. Oh, there, I can move it. Never mind. All right, I'm back. Anyway, so one of the themes of this chapter obviously deals with compassion, and in the Dharma talk she quoted Geshe Kelsang Gatso saying, you know, compassion is a mind motivated by cherishing other living beings and wishing to release them from suffering. And you know, this chapter really kind of brings us full circle, I think, and it's the last time that we're really focusing on actions that we can take surrounding our diet, what we eat. So I thought Dr. Nora gave a kind of a slightly different or a great perspective on this. So, you know, we got to hear from various voices here. And so I liked how she pointed out that, you know, like our own meditation practice, our own meditative experiences, the choice of what to eat is uniquely personal. And then she brought up a number of considerations. The obligation to keep our body and minds healthy, that the Buddha did ask us to be thoughtful of our eating choices, and to avoid intoxication, which can cloud the mind. So when, you know, she kind of challenged us, when does eating meat cease to be nourishment to sustain life force, and when does it become an intoxicant that we crave? You know, when do we contribute to this unnecessary slaughter, and when is enough enough? Bringing up also the Buddhist precept, the yogic ahimsa precept, or can't remember the name of it, like leg of yoga, of doing no harm. Also encouraging us to be mindful of motivation, and is this consumption giving into our attachment? Is it something we're craving? Is it fulfilling our greed? Are are we in any way accumulating negative karma from these choices? And she gave the example of you know, specialty beef raised specifically, you know, for this. And I was thinking just in the same vein of like foie gras and these kind of harsh, especially, you know, particularly harsh treatment of animals for these delicacies. So, you know, is that giving into our kind of craving, whether it's taste or whether it's, you know, to show off to our friends that we're eating something very fancy, or just or that we are kind of just desirous of this specific taste. I remember Lama Yeshe, Tulku Yeshe was talking about our like 2-inch tongue. You know, it's this really little tiny part of our body that that can control us so much, but it's really minuscule there. So she also quoted from the Dhammapada as saying that all beings tremble before violence, all fear death, all love life. When you see yourself in others, then who can you hurt? What harm can you do? And I reached out to Dr. Nora this week and really thanked her in part, you know, mentioned how much I appreciated her Dharma talk, and checked in with her, like, was there something that she really wanted to put to the Wednesday class? Was there something she wanted to emphasize? And she gave me a link to this Master Chen Yin, who was the Buddhist nun that she quoted in the talk, and the foundation that this Buddhist nun had started, that was a very activist foundation. So I do have a little bit of more information to share from them, a little bit about who they are, and a pretty short video on some of the things that they're doing around the world. And Dr. Nora even kind of said maybe it can kind of inspire some activism on our part, or even partnership with them, or you know, maybe we can just note their model and kind of think about what can we do, whether it's using their model or partnering with them, or somehow being inspired by what they do. But that quote that was given in the Dharma talk was just as the lives of human beings are precious, so are those of all living creatures. Animals have feelings, and they too experience fear and pain. They have families and loved ones and wish very much to live. When they are about to be killed, they too cry out in terror for help. We human beings share this planet with other living creatures. How can we objectify them as food for our consumption, for us to slaughter and kill? So this was a quote from the founder of this Buddhist Suchi Foundation. And they even have a video on their website of people kind of mispronouncing their name, making it sound like sushi and other things. It's kind of a funny video of people, you know, saying thank you to them, but also really getting their name, you know, kind of funnily off. So they kind of played with that on their website. But it's a Buddhist foundation that has a lot of international humanitarian work that they do. And really, really strongly emphasizing love and, you know, the Bodhisattva way through service. So yeah, I'll kind of read one of the other quotes that that I realized I spelled her name wrong earlier. Anyway, this was kind of one of the quotes that was in the Dharma talk, and then we can pause there for, you know, any comment that we may have, and then we can go to just a short video about who they are. This was a quote. Dr. Nora quoted from the kind of bullet point pieces of the quote, but I wanted to start a little earlier from this piece, where she writes, "On reflection, it is because this world is so full of problems and complicated matters that we take on the work we do. Our goal is to do good so that all people can live in peace and security. The world can be peaceful, harmonious, and without disasters, and Mother Nature can have the rest she needs to heal and recuperate. Only then can she continue to nurture and sustain all life on Earth. But to achieve these lofty goals, we must first overcome our own inner issues when we encounter difficulties along the way. That is why I say, in the face of suffering, we must nurture great compassion. In the face of ever-changing circumstances, we must bring forth wisdom. In the face of difficulties, we must develop resilience. In the face of tedious processes, we must learn patience. In the face of complications, we must learn to appreciate others' good qualities. In the pursuit of ideals, we must always strive to do better. In the interactions with others, we must harbor gratitude. If we can do all this, there is nothing we can't achieve. Everything ultimately depends on our mindset." So before we kind of jump into a short video, I just wanted to check in that just to see if anyone had any feedback initially about some of those opening ideas. I thought in this class we could kind of focus half on wrapping up this compassion for all beings and what we eat, and then, you know, just as Dr. Nora did in her Dharma talk, kind of open it up to some reflections on the response to the pandemic and things like that. So anything of note that, oh, hi, Nora, I didn't know you were going to be on the call. That's wonderful.
I know it's been really interesting the past couple of weeks, kind of being able to do both Wednesday night with the basics class and then this coming into this as well. And you know, last night was all about renunciation and the 5 wonderful precepts. And I love how what you just shared with us really kind of ties in nicely with that. And it goes beyond the idea of the precept of not killing, right? That's why they're the wonderful precepts, is that it's like, how can we actually help the earth heal and see the interconnectedness of everything. And so I appreciate the slides that you've shown us so far, because it sort of ties in with our 5 wonderful precepts in Thich Nhat Hanh, you know?
Oh, absolutely. And I know Nora brought up inner being as well, which comes into our Dharma Rain readings often, about all this about how interconnected we are. Yeah, but I'm right there with you of renunciation. Especially, I remember how Lama Matt talked about how it's more like when we just get tired of playing with our toys, you know, as we grow up, or the leaves just kind of fall from the tree. It doesn't have to be this this dramatic, you know, suffering of giving up meat and making such a big show of it. You can just kind of direct elsewhere and maybe lose interest in that previous interest.
It becomes a natural process, right? You know, it's just sort of like, oh, this is a maturing of our practice.
Exactly, yeah.
Well, and I like to think about this as kind of a way that we are being more thoughtful about just the food that we eat. Normally, we don't really give it much thought other than I'm hungry and I'm going to feed myself based off of whatever I'm desiring to eat. Now we're being intentional with the food that we eat. So not only is it about like not eating meat per se, but it's also about like being mindful of the food that you eat and you know how you consume, which again plays back to those precepts that we are using with Thich Nhat Hanh, and for that very specific reason, because I think Thich Nhat Hanh really does frame it in a way that is not a no, but a, oh, you can do this, instead being mindful.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was kind of thinking about the impact of this epidemic on people, and how it shows us so directly, so vividly, how we are interbeings, and how, you know, how connected we are, and how our acts and what we do so drastically affect everybody else. And so it's kind of helping me to look at, okay, you know, it's not just a choice of something on the menu. It goes further to how it is impacting the planet, the air quality, the animals, other businesses, other things. So it's just, you know, it just gets bigger and bigger. And and it's like the virus is making it real, really real. That I know if I go out and, you know, I could bring the virus to somebody else. So it, you know, it's really making an impact on that everything that I do impacts everything else, basically.
Yeah. Absolutely. Thanks, Linda. Nora, did you want to add something? I saw you took off your mute button.
I forgot what I was going to say.
Oh, no problem. I'm glad you're joining us.
Yeah. No, I think I've always been really mindful of our interconnectedness, you know, and it's a really good prescription for living, that what hurts you hurts me, and what benefits you benefits me. So.
Oh, thank you. Well, yeah, I loved looking into the foundation you kind of set me on, because I had not heard of the Tzu Chi Foundation. But if you guys are all up for it, I'd be happy to kind of share my screen. It's just a 5-minute video that shows some of their work around the world. Does that sound good? All right. Let's see if this works here.
Andrea, if it doesn't work, I can try sharing on my end.
All right, well, yeah, let's see. It looks like it's moving along. Can you guys see the first image?
No, we're just seeing your PowerPoint.
Oh, okay. Huh.
And also no audio.
That's interesting. Because yeah, I'm seeing it on my end. Let's see.
Yep, we see it now. Andrea, we're not really hearing it very well.
Okay, do you want to share it from your end?
Yeah, just can you chat the link and I'll.
Oh, sure. There you go.
Yep. Thank you.
I was getting too fancy with this PowerPoint.
Hold on one second.
I can hear that.
All right. That was fancy. Okay, Chrome and computer sounds. Does everybody see that now?
Footprints of humanitarian aid have reached over 94 countries and regions since 1966.
It's touching to have people that care that don't even know me.
I'm trying not to cry, but I appreciate all y'all do for me and everybody.
As we offer humanitarian aid around the globe, we spread the message that true giving is giving with gratitude while asking for nothing in return.
If the Tsuchi family around the world is giving so much to Sierra Leone, why shouldn't I sacrifice even more being a Sierra Leonean?
Our volunteers respond quickly when disaster strikes, distributing cash cards and emergency supplies, and offering moral support. We aim to be the first to arrive and the last to leave.
Wonderful people are here ready to help, so thank you so much for coming out to help.
Our aid begins with immediate relief and continues with midterm support and long-term aid.
When you don't have a blanket and you don't have nothing left and somebody cares enough, we have nothing, but we have love.
Serving the underprivileged through charity is central to our path.
Tsuchi's gone much more beyond just meeting the physical and nutritional needs of our families. They're meeting this heart need of, hey, there's hope.
We operate permanent and mobile food banks and provide meals, clothing, school supplies, and other essentials for those in need, while our scholarship awards help college dreams come true.
This is wonderful for our students because they're going to go back to school with a new backpack and healthy food.
Our charity programs aid disadvantaged families and communities, as well as people sometimes underserved, including the homeless, elderly, migrant workers, immigrants, and refugees.
Okay, push.
We tend to the healthcare needs of people around the world and operate hospitals and permanent clinics. Our mobile clinics and medical outreach events expand the scope of our care.
Older students that have been undiagnosed now had the opportunity to receive glasses, and there's been marked improvement, not only in their academics, but also in their confidence level.
I couldn't really see the words. I got headaches and everything. Hopefully no more headaches.
With free checkups, vision and dental care, cancer screenings, and more.
Gave me one of the biggest gifts of all, the smile of my grandkids now.
We are dedicated to reaching underprivileged and underserved families and communities so that nobody gets left behind. The Tzu-Chi Path of Love and Service began in Taiwan in 1966, and it began with our founder, Dharma Master Cheng Yen. Making a vow to relieve human suffering, this devout nun joined forces with 30 housewives who were inspired to help those in need and started saving a few cents daily, collecting the funds in coin banks made of bamboo. The spirit of giving as a way of life is what guides us until today. To give is to receive. And everywhere we go, the receiver of aid soon becomes the giver. Paying the love forward with our bamboo banks. Let's join hands and walk this path of care and service together. Because united, our love saves.
Tzu-Chi forma parte de nuestra familia y del Ecuador entero.
Yo quiero ser voluntaria de Tzu-Chi. Los amo.
I actually met that organization at the last Parliament of World Religion. They had a booth set up that they were talking about their disaster and some of their activities. Yeah. I didn't realize it until I saw their uniforms. That tells you something about groups that wear uniforms.
Oh, okay.
Well, I'm just saying, you know, you may not remember their specific name, but you know.
I was paying attention to the uniforms too.
Yeah.
Not. I noticed the good works they were doing as well, but like,
yeah.
oh, that's the same.
Well, I mean, clearly, Remake Center. I mean, we do a lot of these elements, but they seem to have such a huge presence and a huge operation. It is pretty inspiring when you see all the things that they can accomplish. So I was really uplifted and heartened that there is a Buddhist organization doing a lot of this around the globe.
Like all the medical stuff, having those like transportable medical, I mean, we could use those right now, right? You know?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Nora, I don't know where you first ran into this group. I mean, I heard of them through you. I'm curious if it was just through researching or if you had a connection with them.
No, I don't have any connection with them. I just knew about them.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is the way it started with her is that she, I guess this woman was having a complicated delivery or pregnancy. And so the family members brought her to the hospital for like miles and miles, you know, and they didn't have the money for whatever needed to be done. And the family had to bring her back home to die. And so this really moved her. And then she figured out how many Taiwanese dollars or pennies it would take to have paid for that woman's medical care. So she started this bamboo bank, you know, so starting out first with, you know, just one person needing medical care, and then it just kind of blossomed into this great big organization. So I was really impressed with that. So.
Absolutely. I was too. Thank you for kind of turning us on to their mission and what they do. Well, let me share again this screen. Presentation. There we go. Oh, that's okay. So at this point, I mean, we can, if you have more kind of comments about your experience, kind of thinking about being more mindful about diet and eating and you know, whether it's challenges or inspiration, those kind of comments would be completely welcome. But I did kind of want to save some space and time because there was, you know, another element to this talk, which is of course sort of where we're at now, and a lot of the COVID-19 disruptions. So I put in some of the talk about where we see ourselves today. So one of the things she pointed out was that we are seeing bodhisattvas everywhere, working tirelessly for others without self-cherishing. And it is interesting to see so many of the stories of whether it's people kind of uplifting their neighbors through singing on their balconies, or people who are the first responders or at the emergency rooms and the care facilities. Kind of, you see kind of a full circle. I know I've seen local people offering to buy groceries for their neighbors, and you are kind of seeing a wave of these kind of bodhisattva-like activities. But I also loved how you know, the inner piece of this is reflecting on our lives, and as we kind of are limited to where we can go and what we can purchase and what we can do with our time, it is amazing the things that we can do without. Kind of like a previous theme of contentment with what you already have, and maybe not needing everything that you first desire or have a want. You know, it was brought up that this could offer, it doesn't sound like for people like Lama Matt or Nicole, who seem to be working overtime right now on the tech end of things, but for others it may be a quieter time and possibly a time for some spiritual retreat and time there, and also an opportunity to practice non-attachment and letting go and to understand what is really important. So you know, this is something that is connecting us all, and that we're really all being called to limit, you know, our movement, to limit what we are buying, not hoarding, to limit our interactions physically with people. So there is that kind of interconnection of knowing we're all going through this, and also, you know, realizing what's important. I think this gives all of us a time to kind of have some extra, you know, internal reflection on that.
Can I, you know, one of the things I've been really wonderful to see, especially on social media, is just how much of like a lot of the online Dharma communities have been sharing like practices and, you know, doing, you know, special practices for like green Tara and things like that. There was even the Padmasambhava Center up in New York sent out an email for folks who are on their email list talking about how, you know, oh, if you're at home quarantine, we'll actually use this time as a retreat. And then they gave the Kempo brothers that are the spiritual directors up there, had all these recordings from previous retreats that then they shared, so you could actually go through and listen to the teaching and do practice on your own and actually go into that type of retreat that they led. And so seeing things like that, I think, is, especially when people feel like they're stuck, it's like, use this as a great time for some self-practice.
Yeah, absolutely. I try to encourage the guys at the USDB that as well. Sometimes it does take for people, but yeah, absolutely. I think there is a lot of generous resources being offered if you start to look. I have another one to add at the very end of the presentation. Any other kind of thoughts, reflections that people are having that, you know, that are starting to bubble up based on the circumstances of the last few weeks or more for people?
Andrea, I sent you a link to it's a meditation, mantra meditation on the 20th Tara. The 20th Tara is the mother of contagious diseases, or the
yeah, that was actually really nice, Nora. That was from the Tara Mandala. It was on YouTube.
Yeah, I sat in on that. That was really cool.
Yeah. And we actually did that, Tara. That was the one that we did our focus on for our meditation last Sunday. Slightly different image, but yeah, I really appreciate that, Nora.
Tara Mandala is going to have a chud practice coming up on the 29th.
Yeah, right after the service. So it like kind of starts around 12 on Facebook.
Oh, yeah, yep.
So whoever's doing the Dharma talk, keep it short.
You know, one thought that came to mind is that, you know, because my daughter, I was talking to my daughter and she says, oh, Mom, I have to go because I am on this meditation group at 3 o'clock or something. That maybe, you know, we could all say at such and such a date, you know, we all would do a meditation for, or maybe a Tara 20 meditation for everybody in the world, or, you know.
Yeah, I think just this last Tuesday, Gabi started up the Green Tara practice, and I joined a little bit late, but Lama Met, was she focusing on the 20th Tara, or was it Green Tara as a whole?
Yeah, it was just a regular Green Tara practice, but I think there had been requests where, you know, that's why we're doing the Medicine Buddha too. People had requests to do it, so.
Yeah, no, I think a 20th Tara focus would be wonderful. I've been doing that daily after the link you sent out, Nora. I had joined on that on Facebook Live too, like Nicole did. So right after the Dharma service last week, we joined in there. So if anybody wants that link, we can certainly send that to the class email after this.
I just shared it right there.
Boom, look at that. So if you look in your chat, you can just copy that link for folks. Okay, well, I had a couple other slides and then we can keep going here. Let's see. Okay, so these were a few of my thoughts that I've been kind of looking into, you know, since this class is very focused on ecology and being Bodhisattva with these, you know, with respect to the earth. I kind of started to just look for things that might be a disruption in a positive way, in the sense that certainly not saying that anything that is gone is like positive, so not silver lining it, but just this big disruption. What might some things come of this that could help the earth? So one of the things that I looked into was that the air pollution drop that's starting to happen when these mandatory quarantines are happening. So China was one that they have some really good satellite image evidence of 2 months of significant pollution drop. And there was a person from Stanford University in the environmental resource economist named Marshall Berg, and he kind of was speaking on the just a second, can you guys hear me okay?
You're cutting in and out a lot.
Oh, okay.
That could just be connection though. I don't know if everybody's experiencing that.
We're hearing you fine right now.
Okay, I'll shift a little here in the room and see if that helps. But yeah, jump in if I'm breaking up too much, and we can see what we can do. But so speaking, Marshall Berg was speaking in kind of like a back of the envelope thinking of saying that you know, and this was around March 8th when he's kind of giving these ideas about the environment, that the 2-month pollution drop may have saved the lives of 4,000 children under the age of 5 and 73,000 adults over the age of 70 in China. And he very much pointed out, like, this is not trying to silver line this, but it's pointing out that, well, here's his quote: if there is any environmental lesson, it's perhaps the useful reminder of the often hidden health consequences of the status quo, i.e. the substantial costs that our current way of doing things exacts on our health and livelihoods absent a pandemic. I know my own he says, I know my own carbon footprint is going to go down probably 75% this year. Hopefully we can translate these experiments into more durable changes in how we do things once, hopefully, this epidemic is under control. So, you know, I put another note that, you know, this is not just like, I think we all know this, but this air pollution certainly is not just a China problem. They had a report out last year saying that the Kansas City air quality was getting worse, and gave it a D rating. So I put a link there, and you could just Google this too, Kansas City air pollution getting worse. But, you know, it got me thinking, okay, we're getting some data from some areas that have stopped, you know, that have kind of stopped the traffic, the NO2 emissions, you know, kind of curbed that for a few months. So I don't know if this will work, but there's a 30-second clip that shows the satellite image over China, and it's a really quick one. I wonder if I can put this in the chat well, actually, it doesn't even need sound. Let's see if you can see it. It's really quick, but it's going to show. All right, can you guys see that?
No.
Darn it. Okay. Here, I'm going to text you this link while I'm at, or I mean, I'm going to link you here.
Okay.
So again, it's super quick. So once he pulls this up, it's really only about 15 seconds, but you're going to see this deep, deep red color of the high level of NO2, and then and it's going to go through a time lapse of January, February, March.
All right, hold on one second. I'm getting it prepped here.
Cool. And this one's just of the China region, but there's also one of Italy as well.
Okay, everybody see that? All right. Let me.
Based on data from the Copernicus Sentinel-5P satellite, this animation shows the variation of nitrogen dioxide emissions from the 20th of December 2019 to the 16th of March 2020.
You can stop it there.
Okay.
So I know that was quick, but it's pretty drastic to see the deep, deep red zone really go down as people are in this kind of quarantine space.
It's amazing. It's really amazing. You know, if that's happening, that's unbelievable.
Yeah, especially how quickly it happens.
Right. And, you know, that's probably happening here at some level because nobody's driving anywhere, you know. Yeah.
Well, I think I would be really interested to see what the data shows about the air pollution quality in Kansas City over the next few weeks. I mean, certainly there are businesses, I mean, people are still out driving around in a way that, you know, it's not the complete mandatory lockdown like they had in China. So there are still a lot of essential businesses working, but I would guess that we're going to see some data of the drop. I'm curious. So it's something we can keep our eye out on for sure.
Well, and if factories stop, you know, burning coal and stuff because they aren't producing, you know, it'd be interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. So this was just another thing. I'm part of the Kansas City Community Garden, I'm a member, and the Kansas City Community Gardens was sending us an email saying that there's a growing interest in people growing their own food. And they reminded us members, because when you become a member, you get like 9 free seed packets. They really just take the seeds, you know, and get way more than you can really use. But the reason I bring this up is there is more interest, it seems, locally anyway. And I did a couple, you know, just poking around on the internet, and other local news sources are showing this anecdotal evidence. Like I saw some California news programming saying that there's a lot of interest in their nurseries, a lot more than usual. So anyway, growing your own food certainly does have an effect on reducing carbon emissions and waste from the import from commercial farmers. But coming full circle, since these last few classes have really been about our diet and what we eat, you know, maybe this disruption will have a conversation. I think it already is starting, but maybe it will again get some traction to this conversation about human evolution moving beyond the use of animals for meat. That at least an increase in plant-based meat could certainly gain some traction and help to avoid human transmission, the animal to human transmission. And, you know, of course, I don't think there is conclusive data at this point, but it certainly could have been. There's some information pointing to this, that it could have been an animal to human transmission. But I looked up this Wired story that highlighted that, you know, future pandemics maybe we can avoid these things by moving beyond eating meat, eating animals for meat, because these zoonotic viruses do leap from livestock or wildlife to humans, and our slaughter of these animals puts human hosts in close contact with these infected tissues. So, you know, like I said, I don't think they've 100% called it on this one, but I looked up I guess a more scientific article than Wired.com opinion piece, but they seem to point to the same kind of conclusion, that as we increase our interactions with animals through hunting, the trade of animal foods, animal husbandry practices, wet markets, and the domestication of animals, exotic pets, the probability of cross-species transmission dramatically increases. So we are kind of putting ourselves at risk by the status quo of this the high meat diet and production. So maybe you know, maybe these conversations can start happening again. And Lama Matz pointed out, and many others have too, that these plant-based meats are gaining a lot of interest and market share. But, you know, before we kind of get to just some conversation about this, I wanted to share one more resource, and this is kind of the end of the PowerPoint, so we don't have to go back to that. But Jack Kornfield's been one that's been giving out a lot of really good resources. He's got a lot of great email messages giving out, and today he sent one that was the Bodhisattva response to the virus. So really right in line with what we're studying. And I just wanted to share a quote from his piece today, where he says, trust your dignity and goodness. Where others hoard, help. Where others deceive, stand up for truth. Where others are overwhelmed or uncaring, be kind and respectful. When you worry about your parents, your children, your beloveds, let your heart open to share in everyone's care for their parents, their children, and their loved ones. This is the great heart of compassion. The Bodhisattva directs compassion towards everyone, those who are suffering and vulnerable, and those who are causing suffering. We are in this together. It is time to reimagine a new world, to envision sharing our common humanity, to envision how we can live in the deepest, most beautiful way possible. Coming through this difficulty, what we intend and nurture, we can do. So I think that that is right in line with another one of my favorite Dr. Nora comments of that it's amazing what imagination and intention can do. So so that's all I had for the presentation, but I wanted to see if any of those kind of ideas provoked you or had brought up other ideas of disruptions.
I just want to say I just shared a few links of some of the practices that are happening, and then also if you're getting really cooped up and you want to virtually see a museum, the Rubin Museum of Art has an amazing virtual tour.
Oh, cool.
Thinking about your mental health, art helps.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and I know last week in Lamarad had that Zoom retreat, and I know that he's doing, I think he's doing another one tonight, and then a second one all weekend long as well. They're all different topics that he's covering. And I know Lama Lena has been transmitting via Facebook as well, at least once a week, and then providing practice materials and resources afterwards on her Lama Lena Live Facebook page. Just throwing those out there. It's one of the strange positive aspects of all of this going on is that I've been able to actually have the time and the resources to be able to sit down and kind of experience some of these teachers that I've never been able to experience before. So I'm kind of excited about the Green Tara online practice transmission. That looks really interesting. But yeah, one of the points that Lama Rod made last week and was just about making sure, you know, as far as the self-care was concerned, that you're keeping yourself recharged, that you're drinking as you're pouring was kind of the message that he was putting out there, that, you know, making sure that you're keeping yourself in a state where you can be beneficial to all, where you're not overextending yourself or allowing yourself to get too ragged. I know, you know, for me, daily I've been checking in with family and friends, and I can feel myself getting a little bit drained sometimes just from the conversations and from sort of the empathetic drain, or what Lama Rod calls the emotional labor, you know. And you know, I think it's real important for all of us, if we're going to sustain this through all of this, to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves, you know, in that sense.
Yeah, great point. Lama Rod's a hero, and it's awesome he's putting these retreats on and letting people join in. I find myself the structure really does help, you know, to say, okay, jump on with this person, and are these just Donna based, Derek?
The Lama Rod one was free, you know, and then obviously he had a link for Donna, you know, whatever you wanted to give. I've seen a lot of people are doing that. I think Lama Surya Das is having on Sundays, he's having a sort of a meditation meeting, you know, that's not necessarily a teaching per se, but even just a place for people to touch base. And then the Lama Lena, she broadcasted on Sunday, but her videos get saved on her Lama Lena Live Facebook page. And it got real dense real quick. It was a little bit more, it was above my head for sure. But it was just beautiful to experience her, you know, even knowing that what she was going over was not for me yet.
Thanks for the tip, though. I always love hearing from Lama Lena, so thank you very much, Derek. Other big ideas from us striving bodhisattvas out there, whether it's ideas on how we can be of service to each other, how we can support each other, how this disruption might start waking us up to certain things.
You know, one of the things I just wanted to share, also, I think sometimes people can feel helpless during these times, especially when they may not be the quote unquote essential personnel on the front lines. But I think just staying home, checking in, it can be a real big thing too. I mean, that's also a way of showing love, that you're willing to separate yourself from others. And I would also mention that, you know, there's a lot of anxiety and a lot of fear right now, especially around people losing their jobs and not having enough, you know, the resources they need to. And I would recommend, if you are talking with folks, especially in the Kansas City area, I had put up on the Remay Center website, it's actually a link to another website, but they're listing all the resources available and all the information. So if you hear people who are scared about, you know, having their power shut off or evictions, or what about their phone bills, you know, it actually has all those resources and kind of the correct information that you can then, you know, so when you're talking with folks and they're having, you know, they're expressing anxiety and fears, to be able to have that resource available to them. And the site's called thebeacon.media. It's a journalist website. But it's another way that you can communicate and alleviate fear kind of through the telephone or whatever application you're using.
Yeah, awesome. Any other thoughts? Well, I wanted to read the very end of the you know, really short reading, The Compassion for All Beings. It's just 3 pages, but to kind of, you know, again, bring it full circle. If you want to follow along, it's on page 346 in our Dharma Rain book. And I'll start with the page before. It says, our aspiration in Mahayana Buddhism, inasmuch as we can speak of an aspiration, is to liberate our innate compassion and fulfill the Bodhisattva vows. In the first of those vows, all beings without number, I vow to liberate. We commit our compassion to all beings, not just humans. Eschewing me is one way to express that commitment to the welfare of other creatures. Once we leave habitual preferences behind and forego nimble rationalizations, the issue of vegetarianism comes down to a question of need. If you need to eat flesh foods to sustain your life, or in extreme cases your health, do so, and do so with awareness and gratitude. But if you don't, why contribute to unnecessary suffering? So I think that just hits home of everything we've kind of talked about throughout the last three weeks, kind of you know, it's your choice, and also, you know, if you can be mindful of that and really ask yourself just what she said, why contribute to unnecessary suffering if you don't have to? So that can be in your diet, it can be in the day-to-day, you know, response to this crisis also. Sometimes just doing your own practice and your own work and being the calm one in the room can be of real benefit. Even when, you know, we all have our own worries and anxieties, but I know it's helped me. I know I didn't sleep much last night because I watched a lot of news right before bed, which was a terrible idea. And then it just, so many things were just going around and around in my head. But I kind of rallied this morning by coming back to my practice. And I've been doing the 21 Taras practice that Lama Lena showed us at a retreat. We have it on our Remay YouTube.
Yes.
So at least one of them was on there. So anyway, I kind of refreshed myself from having been at that retreat and looked at my notes, and I've been doing that in the morning, and I just felt 100% better. I felt much more clear and able to kind of tackle the day without the kind of feeling I get after I just watch the news over and over and over again. So yeah, stay. So just to say, stay with your practice if you can, or start one if you don't have one. Now's a great time. Any final thoughts from anybody in the group?
What's happening next week?
So, Nicole, you want to pick up there?
Yeah, so next week we go into the section on Buddhist thought and action, and I believe I chose Population Consumption and the Environment by Rita Gross, who I always like to I always like to read her stuff, but yeah, so we're gonna do that, and we'll see where we go. I think it's about, as we've laid out this book, it's like, oh, we're beginning to examine our food consumption, but now maybe we're gonna look at other aspects of how the things that we consume in this world and take it from there. So come back next week.
And
I know I'll be here.
Some time. It's more than 2 pages like this one. I think it's like 10 or 15.
I'll be calling.
If you're going out anywhere.
I'm gonna be calling Dr. Nora.
Well, thank you again, Nora, for doing the Dharma talk. That was lovely. And I have the precept dedication prayer. Are you guys up for that? Does anyone else have that? If you don't, you can just, I guess, listen in. But I know I did email it to the group one time,